Welcome to The First Turn. I'm your host, Hyena, and today, Llama and I are talking about This Week in Warhammer. If you like what you hear, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share, or let us know if there's something you'd like to hear us talk about. Alright, let's get to it.
Welcome to The First Turn. I'm Hyena.
I'm Llama.
Today, slow week. We had
It was a slow week.
It's it's been a couple weeks where there's not been much going on.
I mean, article after article of here's what the staff's doing.
Yeah, or just fillers of like, hey, this army's coming out eventually.
Hey, here's a story about.
Do you want some lore?
Astra Militarum General,
right?
Whatever her name is.
Completely unrelated. I mean, there was a small release with Minka Lesk.
Yep.
From Black Library where they released a model box.
Yeah.
Of like character. There was something like that, but it's so not topical for like what small releases we have coming up, right? Because we've got obviously Emperor's Children is out. They're
out now.
Release.
Everybody's got them.
You've got the Khorne,
World
the
Eaters.
the Death Guard are pre-order this weekend.
Yep.
And so those will be out. Tzeentch is to come.
Yeah.
Which not much for them that we've seen other than the robots.
Right.
Which are pretty. They're pretty large.
What
I don't know if you've seen those.
What a unique model.
You know what's interesting about them is they kind of look a lot like the Men of Honor, which do you remember in Blackstone Fortress?
Blackstone Fortress.
One of the models
from the Age of not Age of Darkness? No, Age of
I don't know. It was something like that. It was like
it was from the AI era where the Emperor like outlawed AI.
Correct. And they're these robot people who
I could see them having stolen some of that technology because
absolutely.
they thirst for knowledge.
They dabble in the forbidden,
Yeah.
But they are very reminiscent of the Men of Iron in terms of aesthetic of like if you look at the body of the robot itself underneath of the flare, the trappings of the Anubis and the all that the weird
the Tzeentchian magic.
Yeah, all that. It's like this is the body of a Man of Iron. It even has like the domed like head, like a lot of the AI robot kind of things look like. I think it's very. It's pretty obvious, kind of what they are, and they're larger than you'd think. They're pretty tall.
Yeah. They remind me of those.
I think
the Morghast. No, the Arcot.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like size wise.
So I mean, I don't think they're quite that big because those guys are huge. They've got because there's giant bone wings.
They do. So subtract the wings.
I mean, but like I don't know, Shabti. Think about Shabti from Tomb Kings. Like they're kind of
monstrous infantry.
Yeah, like 2.5 or like 1.5 times size human. kind of large. Maybe
Very
2 times human. So
and they're so Thousand Suns. So we can assume they're just animated with magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something. But I do kind of wonder if with them being split off and having their own release, if they're going to get more than the other chapters got.
Because otherwise they could have dropped them in here with the
Legions.
others, right?
Right. Because if it's just like here's a kit and a book, like you could have dropped them all at the same time.
Yeah.
But we are finally getting, because we are recording on a Sunday this time, so we're a little delayed this weekend.
Shh, don't tell people.
We were able to see what our Sunday preview was going to be for next weekend, and it turns out the rest of the Soulblight stuff was coming. We were wondering,
Soulblight Graveyards.
We were wondering about that because like generally when there's a box with a special edition codex in it or battle tome in it, the rest of the army is coming quick because those books aren't valid until the book comes out.
Right.
Street date.
And I think when they started this process way back with like Slaves to Darkness and Black Templars, it used to be like you'd get that box set and then you waited months before the rest of it came out. But now they're kind of like doing like 30 days and getting it out. So yeah, we did wonder. And then without warning, they're like, here you go.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean we got those. We know that like the whole vampire side of it's coming out with it, the Dracolith and the Prince Vordry and the guy on the horse, all that's coming too. We actually got dropped a price list for it as well, and most of it is what you expect, right?
It is
skeletons on normal skeletons on foot or a 20-man box for like $60, whatever you get.
Not
that.
bad. Yeah.
The elite skeletons are about $60 for 10 of them. The horses are like 60, 65.
The elite skeletons. Side note, or it's funny is I think for a couple of years now that we've done this is you talked about wanting a kind of grave guard or depth guard kind of equivalent somewhere in Age of Sigmar.
I do, but I still want them to be vampire.
Yeah.
Like I want to run a vampire army. And these new grave guard models, the barrel guard, they're skeletons. They're little, and they fill the same role as the grave guard did before. And so they are like still one wound, kind of like cheap-ish infantry. I do still think there is room for a very elite sort of vampire infantry unit, because like we had a little bit of it with.
So these only get you halfway there. They're not okay.
I mean, and it's not nothing. It's nothing new. I mean, it's new plastic, right? Because
it is,
they look
right.
so much better.
New aesthetic
than the Graveguard. Holy crap!
They do.
But it's not quite like. It's not quite pulling the what I'm looking for, right? Like I want a full just roster of vampire. I don't need to play anything else, because like honestly, I think I would play Graveguard in a vampire army just because they are very good. They like bodyguard and stuff. Like that's what they're intended for, and they have decent damage output. But they're not quite what I want. So it's there, but not. The models are phenomenal though. I got all mine together and assembled, and then I've got some of my old stuff for Death that. By comparison, it's worse, but it's not jarring, right? Like it's not. You look at it, and you're like, oh man, this is so much different. The scale is the same, like you can see it a little bit in the Graveguard versus the Barrel Guard. The horses, you see it a little bit, yes, but they're all the same base. Like you put them all together, painted, you're not going to notice that much of a difference. No, and
I think they've been doing that more and more, where they don't want your old stuff completely invalidated, because they know there are the players who will never move on from whatever they have.
Right.
But this way, if you get the new ones, you can.
No, I mean some of it they have. I mean, look at Seraphim, right? When they did the Saurus Riders, whatever they were called before, and they came out with the new Agrodons, right? As to like replace.
They were
Saurus
Cold One Riders before.
Yeah, the Cold One Riders.
Yeah,
the Cold One Riders were little. They were units of 5 or 10. The new ones are giant by comparison. 3-man units on twice as bases that were twice the size. Like there was no there was no playing the old ones as the new ones.
But you're replacing a 15-year-old or 20-year-old
no one
kit.
wanted that kit anymore. But in that kind of an occasion though, they have diverged so heavily from the old that you can't really use them as the new. No. Like I'm going to use mine as because I've got all mine ripped off their rebase them and everything as the melee like skink unit.
The skinks on raptor things.
You got the little chicken weird things that have like they have Adelatls, the rain, and there's like a melee version. And it's like, well, I've got all these old Cold One Riders. They could just be my melee versions of those little chickens, whatever they're called. I can't remember. Because they're bizarre. It's a weird aesthetic. It is really strange. But they'll be my melee versions of them. But yeah, I mean they try not to completely invalidate a lot of it, but they do invalidate some of it sometimes.
A lot of the prices were what you expect. Prince Vordry, while I don't have an idea exactly of how large his kit is, he is up there, $195
but
US.
If you think about it,
that's big.
The Prince Vordry kit allows you to build him, the vampire, riding the Draconith, or you can ride, or you have the Dracolith separate, just unmounted on its own.
Yep.
If you were playing Prince Vordry at his 500 point, buying one of that kit and building a named character out of makes sense, right?
Yeah, you're never going to need another one, and he's 500 points.
Because the kicker is that kit is $195. $195. That's a lot. That's like Imperial Knight.
Yep.
Costed. When the Imperial Knights came out, they were like 160, or I think they're up around 195 now, or maybe more than 200. That's an expensive kit.
It is.
Oof.
Very.
But if you were playing them as unmounted Dracoliths, you're paying $195 for a 260 point monster. That feels rough.
That feels rough.
It feels really rough.
Especially if you want to play an army with 3 of them.
Yeah, $200 for a 500 point model, fine. $200 for when you're almost paying $1 per point.
I mean, I guess if we wanted to find a silver lining, imagine if Forge World decided we're going to do a character series of Vordry. So they made that kit. So it would be A, chunkier, B, a pain in the ass to assemble and transport, and it would cost $500.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a perspective to it to a degree.
Sure.
This is a niche thing, but $195 for him is steep if you're just trying to build the generic monster.
Right.
That's rough. You make a good point, because when it's a one-off, like a named character who's 500 points, you only ever need the one. He eats up a big chunk of your army. Then you don't feel so bad making that one-time investment. It's like buying a leather jacket you'll have for 10 years.
Right.
But when it's a 260-point generic monster that you can run multiples, 6 of them.
Yeah.
And now you think, what if that's the most effective thing in your list? And it's like, oh, I really want to play 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Shit.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Not great. So that was the only thing that was a shocker, right? I mean, I was thinking like $150, right? Like, yeah, that would make sense. But that was a lot. But everything else, besides maybe the faction terrain, was reasonable, because the faction terrain was like 80, 85, something like that. Again, a bit high for just being 3 little tiny buildings or 2 little tiny buildings, whatever it is.
That's only need one set of those ever, thankfully.
I know, but still, like, ugh.
Well, and it's terrain, so those are the China cast. Those are so like most Games Workshop models are made in Nottingham, the UK facility, but they're terrain and scenery pieces.
Well, I'm not sure about that, because when I got the new like Iron Jaws tower, it was a much better plastic quality. So I don't think that one, because that's their faction terrain, is that like the command tower. That one was, I think, made in Nottingham.
Maybe.
So maybe they're trying
It'll
to
say it on the box.
Some of the stuff, I think they're trying to actually make better kits that aren't that like big chunky plastic. Because a lot of like the I think a lot of the like Warcry stuff, that terrain, China cast.
Yeah,
because that was chunky.
I know historically
plastic.
the faction terrain and then their basic scenery were a lot of times made in their China cast, but it'll say on the box. Yeah. So maybe that one was.
I don't think the Stormcast one was made in China.
Maybe that's
either.
a change they're making.
Yeah,
and it could be because. I think you and I have speculated recently on the lack of releases, and it could be everything from new fiscal year, tariffs, all this other stuff going on. But like they've had to change some stuff in their business model to keep up with production. But we're like, man, there's a real lack of releases, at least for this game.
Yeah.
What's going on? And so maybe they are doing that. Maybe they're changing a lot of stuff that was made over there, and they're like, we're just not going to make it over there anymore. We're going to make it all here.
Right.
If that's the case, then
maybe the new facility they're building is going to be like, well, we're doing this is dedicated to this game. And they really haven't ramped that up yet.
Pure speculation.
Yep.
Maybe the UK facility just can't handle it all at the moment, and so it's a lot. If they are moving scenery over, then you might see that slightly finer detailed terrain kit for each faction instead of the chunky, sort of generic gray, heavy mold line style piece. But you're saying that this one you got for the Ironjaw /
Cruel Boys
yeah. was like better quality.
Yeah, significantly. And I think the new Stormcast one, their little like thing, was also might have been better quality, because like it's pretty noticeable. Like look at especially a lot of the 40K terrain, like those little the blessed basilicas and all those buildings are like, these are chunky. Like these are solid plastic, like tons of mold lines, like you were saying.
Because even the Slaves to Darkness one felt like that. Yeah. Felt like the China ones, and it says made in China on the box. Yeah. But like, yeah.
But I think some of the newer ones, maybe they're not anymore. Okay. I might be wrong. I don't think I have the box. I think I might have tossed it. But it's like I said, maybe we're hitting the point where they don't need to do that anymore.
Maybe.
And sometimes you see an uptick in cost because of that. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, it's good that Soulblight Gravelords release is imminent. I know that was kind of a question mark in the air, and now it's here. But the next question is like, what's next? Summer ends up a weird, like, sort of dry season for them.
Yeah.
I know U.S. Open.
And it's so strange because we've had these like, you know what you're saying, but like they've got like a plan, right?
They
like,
do.
We've seen it. We've had it for 4 or 5 months now, a plan of what's coming next.
Isn't it weird to think that, by the way, we are almost 40% through 2025? Whoa!
It just started. Yeah, but we know what their plan is, at least on paper, and there's no payoff for any of it yet.
Not yet.
It's so weird. Like we know Deepkin are coming, we know Ghosts are coming, we know like Death is getting fully fleshed out basically this entire year. Like, where is it though? You know what I mean? Like, we're a May release for their second release is in May.
Yeah,
that's not quick.
Well, and there's a U.S. Open this month, so there may end up a preview event there because they do it sometimes at their own events. They do multiple preview events now every year, so it's kind of harder to predict.
There'll be a Warhammer Day on some weekend sometime too, when they'll show some stuff off. During the sort of the dry spell of conventions, they'll just host an online preview.
Yep.
You
figure that's got to come here, and sadly we know they don't do a preview at Gen Con anymore. They do it at all the other ones.
Yep.
But I figure there's got to be one coming this month because I'll say this: the Warhammer community site, which I usually visit every day, has been kind of just like, man, you're filling it with nothing.
You're really stretching it thin here, trying to get content for your.
You not only did a Black Library content day, but then the next day you like interviewed an author about the same book.
One of the pre-release weekend was literally just a digital Black Library book.
Yeah,
it's like that's not a pre-release.
No,
like that's nothing. Just say we don't have one this weekend.
And now you may have, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You may have seen the full Soulblight Graveyards Battle Tome.
I have it. Yeah, because it came in the box.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
And we have seen now that again, it's really not anything in addition to the index outside of whatever models are new.
Right.
But as far as like the army rules themselves, not an upgrade.
Nothing improved. Nope.
So all that it did is create a $60 invalid on the paper it's printed on barrier to the army.
Now there aren't points in the book anymore, so they're not doing that.
Which is a
plus.
Which
means that the points that they print are no longer invalid because they don't exist.
Yep.
Which is fine, which is good. But it's still hard to use because the codes in the book are not activatable until the book comes out. And so I've been sitting on this book for 3 weeks now that I can't use in the app.
Even then, you still spend $60 to get a code to then fold a book up and put it on your shelf. Like,
it's such a wasteful practice.
Because in 2 weeks they'll do an FAQ or an errata, and then throughout AOS 4.0, if we just stick to this one army, Soulblight Gravelords will have points changes. It will have erratas. It will have possibly an entire formation or army of renown added. Because they like to change stuff throughout an edition now to give every army attention.
They're doing it now, and they even said so that they're going to give new formations and stuff and war scroll changes and everything to a bunch of different armies. I remember, I can't remember which article it was on, but they were talking about it where they're saying, when this new General's Handbook comes out, you're also going to receive updates to all kinds of different armies, not just the season rules. You'll actually give some attention to some armies that need help,
which further invalidates the battle tome.
Right, exactly. And some of the armies, granted, they don't have a battle tome yet, right? So you're not invalidating anything. But what about the ones that do?
But yet we haven't seen in Age of Sigmar a battle tome that really improves upon the index.
I mean, we've seen all kinds of crazy stuff happen with
the
40k armies.
I would almost argue now that Index Hammer on the Age of Sigmar side is the best version of the game.
Yeah.
Because clean slate, every army gets their rules at the same time. Balances happen with all the armies existing at the same time. And all of the rules are available in the app.
Yep. Yeah, just
now
start to lock things behind things.
Now if I want to decide, maybe I want to buy an Ironjawz army. Well, oh shoot, I got to spend $60 to unlock it in my app. Otherwise, I can't look at their stuff.
Right. Before you've even decided to commit. It's not...
And I know there's always going to be a contingent of players who are very old school. I mean, I'm older than most players, but there's always going to be a contingent who is like, well, I don't want to invest in an army until their Codex/Battle Tome comes out. But I think we're in an age now where it's like, can we beat this dead horse?
Maybe I'll only pick up an army that doesn't have a battle tome yet.
Yeah, I need to be able to look at all their stuff. I know I've sat there with some friends of ours who are looking at rules for random armies who they can look at because they're an index. And they're like, you know what? I might buy a spearhead of this, or I might buy a combat patrol of this and start this army. But if their codex is locked or their battle tome's locked behind a $60 paywall, they're like, oh, never mind.
Right. That's rough.
I think, I don't know, it's an outdated part of the release policy. That said, we know on the Age of Sigmar side that Nighthaunt, Ossiarchs, they're coming, right?
I'm not sure about Ossiarchs.
But we know...
It was Nighthaunt and...
Idoneth Deepkin.
Idoneth Deepkin are next.
Gotcha.
And then shortly after that is going to be the Flesh Eater Courts.
So...
and Blades of Corn, at least.
So it's funny about that. Nighthaunt have gotten a lot over the years.
Yeah.
I could be fine if they get a model in a book. Idoneth, however, good gravy, do they need a lot of stuff. Please give them more stuff.
An army that is only for AOS. That's kind of one of the
Please
sad
give
parts,
them more stuff.
Is the AOS centric, specifically designed for that armies tend to be the weakest roster, right? The ones that were designed from Old World and ported over have so much more stuff.
Yeah.
And they get more attention. Besides maybe Lumineth, right? That's like maybe
Lumineth have gotten pretty
maybe
big.
the only army that's gotten enough to support the army. You know, because they got 3 different waves. Whereas it's like, what have Fire Slayers gotten?
Just
nothing.
Characters.
There was a Warcry warband.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, like there's nothing.
Idoneth got every model they have in their first wave.
Yeah, they got basically,
and then they've gotten a character since.
Underworld warbands.
Yeah.
But that doesn't count. That doesn't.
This release for them, it was like that was one of, it was Fire Slayers, Idoneth, and Ogre. What do they call them now? Maw Tribes.
Maw Tribes. Yeah.
It was like they need big releases to expand them, and there's hints that the Maw Tribes might get it because they've decided to keep them, and I feel like that was one of those that they were deciding. Similar to Skaven, where it's like, do we port them back to Old World or do we keep them in Age of Sigmar?
That's absolutely...
Skaven, they committed to AOS, and we saw because they got a massive release.
Yeah.
But it was like, Ogres is the other one. But as far as AOS-centric armies, Idoneth Deepkin better get more than just a book and a model. Come on.
Right? Because they've gotten that treatment a couple times now.
Come on. They got, like I said, they got almost every model they have in their first wave, and they've only gotten a character since.
Yep. Like I said, I think 3 times.
Yeah. Character. Fire Slayers have been the same. Character. It's like, come on.
Agreed.
So what do we think? So there's the U.S. Open, I think, this month. Do we think they'll give us a preview event?
I think there's got to be something that's going to go along with it. It has to be.
May the 4th be with whatever nerds celebrate that.
But yeah, May the 4th. Yeah, forgot about that. Hey, we're not Star Wars. No. Yeah. It's
okay.
Got to have something, right?
In Dallas on the 22nd through the 25th this month, there's a U.S. Open, and then we get one in July. So 2 events between now and Nova, which we know they'll do a preview event for, and then Worlds and Nova. So we do have one this month, end of this month. Maybe we'll get something.
I would say we're probably
because it's basically to where now they do a big preview event almost every 2 months.
Well, because
we're
we're almost out of like stuff that they've previewed.
Well, they
right?
did.
We need another
did one
wave
in
of
January
of
with LVO. And now LVO's moving, we know. But they did one in January with LVO. They did one in March with Adepticon.
Yep.
So now we'll get one in May at a U.S. Open. We'll get one in July at a U.S. Open. We'll get one in September for Nova. We'll get one in possibly the next LVO, which is October.
Timing works out.
So we could be due for one here. Maybe they're saving stuff. They have to spread it out now among 5 preview events instead of 2. So that could be a part of it, and they haven't figured out that schedule yet.
I mean, if they did lock it down and like that was a regular thing, we wouldn't have to guess anymore.
Oh, and Spiel, by the way.
Oh yeah, Essen, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they might not do a preview event, but they do a Golden Demon there. So I mean, who
could
knows?
be something. Dang, I wish I could really. I was trying to find the article I was looking at mentioned the fact that a bunch of armies are going to get stuff
like the roadmap.
It wasn't a roadmap. It was like at the end of an article that was unrelated. It was weird.
Was it talking about like the General's Handbook?
No, it was like at the end of a next week thing, and it was like, oh, by the way, look
they
out
just
for
did like a
this.
throwaway line by the look out for releases for every army.
It didn't have anything to do with anything. Maybe it was in the General's Handbook. I mean, I can too difficult.
Well, we know that they map and plan out a lot of the releases up to 18 months ahead of time. But that doesn't mean they don't have to adjust on the fly.
Right.
And it's possible with production limitations, with changes in global trade, with all these events now that they have to be present at, that they might have to they're trying to slice up their content in a way that makes sense.
Dang it.
And
by the way, when is the freaking Cathay coming out?
Oh yeah,
that was another gigantic wave of releases
that's got to eat up a lot of plastic production.
Right? Exactly.
And if their facility hasn't expanded yet, or they haven't made a second facility yet, or whatever that plan is, because we've always heard about it, but I don't know when it's official. Because will they announce something like that, like, "Hey, our new facility"? Because it's not like when you visit, right? You don't visit their warehouse,
right? I mean, I feel like it would be an announcement where they would be like, "Oh,
but
it's coming."
Yeah, you have to make a big metal box with conveyor belts in it, but like. Because that's how simple it is. But it's been in the works for a long time, seemingly. I don't know how far along they are. But I feel like, and we may be biased, but with Age of Sigmar 4th edition, they released possibly their best set of core rules ever.
Yeah.
And they're updating them constantly, which we'll talk about now, by the way. An update came in that nobody knows about.
Yeah. So before we get to that, I did pull up the General's Handbook.
Oh, here we go.
Announcement thing. Coming next is Deepkin, Blades of Corn, Caradron, Nighthaunt, in no particular order, I don't think.
Okay.
And then there's obviously a wing picture, then will be Flesh Eater Courts. So those are the 5 next armies. But we've not seen anything for any of them.
Yeah, and we have suspected for a long time that Blades of Khorne will get similar to Stormcast, a big redux of some old kits probably.
Right. And then for the General's Handbook, 25-26. It's actually might be a pretty valuable one to get because it comes in a box now, not just the book, but it's going to have like objective marker discs that come with it, which is nice to have.
Official ones, finally.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And then changes to battle tactics were highlighted for the season, and then they said that free content and new enhancement choices to entire battle formation will be coming for like every army. Every faction will receive free as part of this.
I mean, and
they'll be match play legal, not just like Legends stuff.
But they kind of teased that with the last campaign event,
right?
And they did release stuff for like a handful of armies.
But I want it to be more than just like, hey, here's a new Army of Renown, that kind of thing. You know, like, what more than that?
Well,
like,
because
like,
Armies of Renowned,
they're another way to play. But they're like they're very niche.
They're super restrictive.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like that. Like let's say I have a Blades of Khorne army for people out there who do, and they're like, hey, we're gonna give you something new, and you're like, oh sweet, and then here's an Army of Renown,
all Khorne demons.
So here's a super restrictive thing you can do within your army. That's not, to me, that doesn't feel new. That feels like, I don't know, like here's something you're probably never going to exercise your ability to do, to play a very restrictive version of the army you collect everything for.
And, you know, and a skeptic in me says, like, oh, well, are they releasing this not because it's neat and it's cool and there's like a specifically designed reason that's driving this, you know, the creation of this army? Is it like, oh, man, we've got all these demon kits that we're sitting on. We want people to buy them. Release an army for now that's all demons.
Yep.
So we can push these sales. Like, I mean, I feel like that is some of what drives it.
It is,
you know,
probably.
But it's something, but it's so low effort.
It is.
You know, it's like giving you something for like no cost, and they might get something out of it.
Well,
but it's not like
that. Also feels like the type of thing that they could write in a weekend.
Right.
Where
exactly.
like, hey, we're sitting on piles of blood crushers. So let's make a formation,
a brass stampede,
an army of renown.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's going to feature 3 units of those and a character on them. So now people, and we'll give it maybe rules that are enticing. And so now people who are in there, and now they got to go buy 3-4 more kits of that,
right?
Because they're going to have to play this or want to play it.
It's a clever way to drive sales, honestly. But it's like people also want new stuff. You know, I don't want to like. It would feel really bad if I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna go buy, you know, a new formation. I'm gonna go buy 3 kits of this now, and then, you know, 6 months from now, when Blades of Khorne gets an update and they say, oh, we're retiring these kits, and now, you know, we've got these new Juggernaut units that are units of 2 instead of 3. And there's a brand new kit. Yeah. There are bigger sized bases, even though you just bought 9 of them, you know, 6 months ago because we released an Army of Renown. Like, that kind of stuff does happen.
It does.
And it's like, that is, if not deceptive and sneaky, it's like, it makes you feel bad, right? Because, like, you pushed me a little bit. You enticed me to buy your old stuff.
They're not blood crushers. They're soul crushers.
Yeah, and you enticed me to buy your old stuff just to release new stuff right away.
Yep.
You know, it's like, and now my old stuff is invalid. I mean, it felt a little bit like that with some of the stuff from Warcry, you know, in the old Slaves of Darkness book. Here's all these really cool Warcry warbands. They're all unique. You know, releasing tons of them. They're in the book. You can play them all as Slaves of Darkness. Oh, by the way, new edition, you can't play any of them anymore. And we're not even going to sell them to you anymore. It's just like, man, that is a real rug pull. You know, and while some of them were like first edition Warcry warbands, it's like, it makes sense. All right, Untamed Beasts, you can't get them anymore. Fine. But like the Horns of Hashit that were brand new, they were out for like 3 months.
Hey, we've mentioned that a few times, Games Workshop. What happened to them?
What the hell? It feels bad.
Well, and so when they say that there's like, hey, there's going to be new stuff for pretty much every army around the General's Handbook thing,
right.
I think of like, so one of the campaigns they did in AOS 3, there were a handful of armies that each got some new kits. Now, in some cases, it was just a character, and then Ironjawz randomly got an entire roster expansion.
Yep.
But I wonder if it's going to be that. Like, hey, here's another new character, derp, who brings another unit with them into a fight, derp. Or, just like you described, an army of renown.
Yeah.
That
it does
tries
say,
to get you to buy kits.
So again, I will reiterate the wording on it. Is it's whatever is contained within the General's Handbook is going to be separate from the other stuff that's in the weeks leading up to the General's Handbook. Every faction will receive free content, from new enhancement choices to entire battle formation. So, like, what's in between that?
Okay.
What's in between that? I mean, are we talking, like, is this updates to armies, right? Like, I know a lot of people are not happy with the fact that, so it's like, here's a natural progression, right? You have universal artifacts and spells and lores and all this stuff that was in the other book.
Yep.
You could take some of them for your wizards and your priests and your characters, but then you have a battle tome that has other ones. Well, some of those overlap with the universal. So what we should do is remove some of the ones from the books so that you can just take one from the universal one instead, right? Because why do you need to have an artifact that gives you a 6-up ward as a universal trait and then have a 6-up ward artifact in your book as well?
Yeah.
It's unnecessary. So in that case, it's like, oh, well, there's 6 to choose from here, and then your book gives you 3 more. You've got 9 to choose from. No problem. Well, in these current battle tomes, what they did was you still only have 3 choices for artifacts, but we got rid of everything universal. It's all gone now. And so now when you're looking at your army, you're like, I have 3 things to choose from. That's it.
Yeah.
When I look at spells for my army, my 3 spells that my army has, that my wizards have access to, are wildly different in power levels between the battle tomes. Some armies do not have any offensive spells at all. I think Soulblight has like 2 defensive and 1 like debuff. It's like, where's the like damage spell? You know, like where's that kind of thing?
So yeah. So what this feels like is when we get this General's Handbook later in the summer, right? It'll be like, addition to battle tomes, here's more content.
Right. And it could be that. They could be bringing back like a universal thing
but
for every army.
But then it feels like, why did they release the battle tomes?
Right.
That were basically the index ported over, and in some cases with less rules.
Right. We're going to clarify your army rules and just make it. That's what happened with Slaves of Darkness.
And hide them behind a paywall.
Yeah.
And by the way, your cool stuff's coming with the General's Handbook that'll finally give you some more flavor.
Right. It's odd. It's like,
how do you come to that decision?
Right?
Is it the video game DLC model that they're going for?
Is it they're trying to like, well, not every person wants to play matched play, so we'll do it the stuff that everyone gets in this form, and then if you want to play match play, you got to go do this thing over here instead, but not everyone needs to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I still can't wrap my head around the fact that every army gets worse with a battle tome. That alone,
they do.
That alone is just boggling my mind. Not a single army has gotten better with a battle tome.
In Age of Sigmar.
In
40K with their codex.
Holy crap, there's so much insane stuff in codex.
They get a lot.
The codex design ported over, like, people be upset because it's like they released 6 or 7 battle tomes that didn't have this treatment. And they have to finish. Either they, again, feels bad moment of, well, you bought a battle tome and all the stuff that makes the battle tome good, we're going to release later for free to fix them. It's going to be that kind of thing. Or you're not going to get an update, but every army going forward, their battle tome now massively makes their army better.
Right.
And so you're one of the early 7 ones, and you don't get
So
that.
we're not even a full year into AOS 4.
Yeah.
And so my thought process is when we get to about 18 months in, all of a sudden the battle tome design is going to change.
Right.
And it'll be like, well, if you were in that first half of the battle tomes, you got an index minus and you had to spend $60 so you could use it in the app.
Yep.
And you got nothing. You have to wait for a free LC to come out later to make your army better. Every other battle tome after that's going to be just juicy, packed full of goodness. Right. It's going to be a casserole of stuff. 40K codexes in 10th have all been like either upgrades or just simply massive changes from the index.
Yeah.
Where it feels like a totally new army. Even if it's a side grade, it feels like a totally new way to play. And maybe that's their design teams are just higher on that end of effort. But like, we were looking at that, and you see the complainers, sure, where they're like, oh, my world leaders got weaker with the new book. And it's like, I'm looking at it, and it's like, it's totally different stuff.
Right.
When I'm looking at just what that one character does.
The stat block for your Berserker, yes, looks a little different.
Yeah.
But your army rules have all the power that you lost.
Yeah.
Like, you're no worse. Plus, now everything benefits from it, not just this one unit.
Yeah, plus everything benefits from it, not just this one unit. And now your unit can be 20, and now you can attach a dude to him that gives him a bunch of buffs. It's like, that is what I want if I'm going to get an army change in the middle of an edition.
Yep.
Not, hey, you go from Eye of the Gods to not.
not.
And all your
Knob the
best
gods.
units go up in points,
Yeah.
and your units that aren't played don't change.
Yeah. But the units that are played are getting more expensive.
More expensive all the
So there's
time.
that too.
Yeah.
So like, not only are you not getting more incentives to play the bad units, but you're getting less incentive to play the good units.
Yep.
It's like, man,
We'll just get you to not play them at all.
what a weird design choice. Like, it's just odd.
What it would be like to be a fly on the wall in that,
I know.
what that design team and what the top-down decisions are like.
Yeah. You have to nominate which hero is going to be looked at by the gods. Then tell your opponent, hey, this character right here is the one I'm trying to ascend to godhood. I'm like, cool. Thank you for telling me that. I'm going to kill them first.
Immediately.
Like, how long is it going to take you to accomplish that? 4th battle round. I got time.
Yeah, I got to.
You know, like,
everybody knows
it's
this.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or just like I said, the fact that, oh man, I'm not even going to bring the faction terrain for Size of Darkness anymore. It's not worth it. It's just,
Well, it's
it
a
just
pain.
gets in the
It's
way.
a pain in the butt to transport, and it
it's
does
not good.
nothing.
It's just not good. Like I said, the Seraphim one is so hilarious. Just how much better it is than that one for basically the same footprint. It's just like, why? How are these on the same board together? You know, I was looking more at the Seraphim army rule with like the one that was just ridiculous with the bites, and there are like 4 or 5 other armies that have that same mechanic based on your detachment you bring, but all of them are on like really squishy units. That's what makes the Seraphim one so good for like biting 3 times. Is it's like you can get it on witch elves. You think witch elves are going to survive a combat long enough to be able to like do the mortal wound thing, or like zombies are going to be able to do that? Like, no, it's like it's not going to happen. The fact that it's on Saurus warriors and Croxigors and Saurus characters can do it. You could have 3 characters that are Saurus all doing a chomp for 6 mortal wounds total. Like,
Yeah.
that's nuts. There's no like Deadwalker heroes that can pile in and bite.
Nope.
It's literally zombies and direwolf. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's just so funny to me. Plus, also, you're just generic +2 movement or +1 to cast for all your wizards or all that shit you get for free. It was just like, man, Seraphim. Their army rolls are just the best. It was similar to
You know what, though?
Luminous army rolls are so good.
But I bet when their battle tome comes out, they randomly get weaker
Yeah, right?
for some reason. Hey, pay $60 to be worse.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, scalability. A lot of the rules just aren't designed to scale to game sizes, which is a huge problem. I've said that before, but like, it's a big problem. The more you look at it, you're like, yeah, this is gross at 1,000. This is pointless at 2,000.
Well, and I'm just... I know we talk about it week in and week out, but I'm just on Games Workshop's decision-making with Age of Sigmar in 4th edition, where it was like the launch was so incredibly big, and they featured it heavily at one of their U.S. Open events, where they had these celebrity people come in and play the games on camera.
And they've just done nothing after that.
And then
it's been all 40K.
Yeah, and
Lord of the Rings,
and
40K.
And they gave Stormcast and Skaven this attention, and they gave Spearhead attention, and the new rules are really good for AOS 4. And then they've given it nothing. It was like, here's books that do nothing.
Yeah. Even if they have an article on Warhammer Community that features AOS, within the same day it's already bumped off the front page.
They bury it 3 deep because they bring 2 Black Library and a Horus Heresy article, and all of a sudden
it's like are you trying to sabotage? Are you trying to prove a point? Are you trying to like show someone that this game isn't working by like intentionally making it so people can't access it? You know what I mean? Like it's weird. It's like self-sabotage almost. If you want your game to sell, like fucking promote it. You know?
Well, and we know that by numbers it's successful, but it's like
it's almost like despite the fact that you're giving it nothing, you know, you're not giving it the attention it needs. You're not giving it the support it needs.
Has the studio bitten off more than they can chew now with all these games, and they have to like cut? I don't know.
It's weird.
Maybe it feels like
weird.
I don't know. Maybe people who are 40K first players, Old World first players, Horus Heresy first players, maybe they feel the same way about their own game.
Maybe.
But so we'd love to hear your opinion.
I mean, we do see some of that, you know, with like, oh, well, where's my Votan?
Yeah.
Or whatever. You know, like those kind of things where it's like, well, I haven't gotten an update for Votan ever either. It's like, yeah, like I get it.
Yep.
You're so hyper fixated on your own thing that whenever you're not getting something more for your thing, it feels like you're being neglected intentionally. Like, I mean, I get that sort of feeling.
Well,
but it's like, but when you take a step back and you actually look at like, all right, number of articles featuring AOS in the last 6 months, it's like it's a quarter of 40K's attention.
Yep.
Like
even
like,
when the releases haven't been less robust. Like, so even when the 40K release is literally a book and a model,
right?
They still get a whole
Literally.
week of attention.
Exactly. It's Death Guard gets one character in a book, and they get here's tactics and lore, and it's like they won't shut up about Death Guard.
Yeah.
Like no one cares about Death Guard. Like, why are you harping on them so heavily? It's like, man, like yeah, just the amount of attention for just the smallest little detail. You know, it's weird. Meanwhile, a whole army book releases.
Oh, by the way, next Saturday pre-order.
You know,
and it's already two down in the articles.
Yeah,
it is.
So,
that is.
It's a little frustrating.
It is. But on the 40K side, what we did get that was kind of juicy was they just were like, bam, and it wasn't even leaked first. This wasn't even like it was leaked, so we had to show it.
It wasn't even in the release schedule.
No,
when they first, because we're talking about Space Wolves, right?
Yeah.
Well, like they showed them off at Adepticon, and it wasn't even on the release schedule. It just came out of nowhere. And well, I think that's cool. It's also kind of shitty at the same time because it's like, here's a schedule for what we're going to do with things. The next things we're going to get are these armies. Oh, by the way, we're just going to slide a whole other army and then bump everything back.
Yep.
And it's like, well, you told us you were doing something else. And then you just put this in, and it's dedicated massive resources to it. I mean, it's like
massive.
Like it's kind of like it's kind of crappy.
Not only are they getting everything that they showed at Adepticon in a special edition box, but now they showed us this week 3 of their legendary characters getting new models, which all look great.
Yep.
Logan Grimnar is a showstopper. I mean, it's the version of him I think we've always wanted.
Yep.
Because
the sled was a bad choice. And that was really awkward.
Yeah. And before that, in 3rd ed through 5th, they had him just as a Terminator doing the weird, like, he just swung in a batting cage pose with one knee. But that one held up for years. A lot of people used it. And I don't know if they had one before that. I think he was always in rules but didn't have a model. And the sled was bad. This is perfect. Yep. This is Chapter Master. He's one of the oldest characters in the galaxy. I
mean, if you head swapped that and told me it was Lehman Russ, I'd believe you.
Yeah, he's
you know what I mean?
He's living large. He's got his 2 named wolves with him.
Yeah.
And then they gave us Arjak Rockfist, which they upscaled him to be current Terminator size. He's slightly plain, but I think that's perfect for him.
Yep.
And then with Niall Stormcaller, they went back an era. So he's no longer in Terminator armor. They went with the 2nd ed runic armor, which is what they call their version of Artificer armor. And he's from the looks of it, he's not Primaris.
I think you're right. Yeah. He was kind of like old style Marine.
Yeah. And now I'm sure because he's a character in a Warhammer game, they upscaled him because he certainly looks bigger than the old stunty version. But now he's in runic armor, power armor, and he's just standing there with the staff in front of him.
Yep.
It invokes the 2nd ed.
Absolutely.
Kind of.
Because he had that same kind of pose where he was like holding the staff and channeling.
And we've seen that lately with the Space Marine updates in particular where they invoke even with the Eldar Phoenix Lords, it was like they invoke the old but with current aesthetics.
No, you know what? I think he might be Primaris scale. Looking at him again.
I think scale he is, but he's not in Primaris armor.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. Like, he doesn't have the spherical kneecaps and like...
True.
You know.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yes, as a character, they upscaled him for sure. Was it Lamartis was like that?
Yeah.
Where they...
Yep.
He wasn't in Primaris armor, but they upscaled him.
Yep.
They want to make Marines true scale now, I think is the... but these were dropped out of nowhere. We didn't have a fuzzy leak somewhere first of these. Then so they decided, well, shoot, we got to spoil them now. No, these just dropped in. But it confirms what we thought, was that Space Wolves were not going to just get one wave in a box. We knew they were going to get probably more than one.
Right.
And then they showed with these 3 characters also the new Wolfguard Terminators.
Right.
Which look great.
Yeah, I mean, they're so characterful.
Now, well, we don't know anything yet, but one of our friends who happens to play Space Wolves asked me, like I would know, I don't know, but they were like, so do you think they're going to give them the options to actually have like all the same weapon type? Do you think they're going to be single post, single outload, or single loadout? Like, what do you think?
I mean, I think
I think the Wolfguard battle leader, the character leader of the unit, will have a couple of specific options.
I think they're going to give them all the options. I think you're going to load them out in all shooting or all melee.
I suspect it'll be like mostly the base Terminator kit with a Wolfguard sprue, and then I think the character leader will have his own...
Well, I'm not sure because I mean there is like the little Griblies and stuff on there, but even the normal guys have like the Space Wolf cummerbunds sculpted in.
Yeah.
Which you couldn't just swap out with.
So
a
maybe
bit.
like the Deathwing kit.
Yeah.
Where it's its own. Yeah.
But they've also, I think there's also a couple of different models that have, like, 'cause they showed the guy with the claws, right? Is that the battle leader?
Yeah.
Pack leader?
He can
have multiple options.
Right.
Okay.
That's why I think it might be like the Deathwing box.
But maybe the normal unit will have, 4 of the guys, 3 of the guys have a melee weapon and a Stormbolter. One of them has an assault cannon and a fist, and the other one has a heavy weapon.
Yeah.
Like maybe they'll lock you into that, but
so
I don't know.
Well, and this might be their little niche thing. That and their equivalent of the Blade Guard vets that we saw that'll be in the box set that have like the round shields and the what do they call those guys?
I forgot. Wolf
Hunter something,
Hunter, yeah.
Whatever. So like Blood Angels didn't get unique Terminators. They got unique jump pack guys, right? Your Sanguinary Guard and your Death Company. And like Dark Angels had their unique
Terminators, the Deathwing Knights,
and their unique Sword Brethren.
Yep.
Yeah. Now this is theirs, right?
Yep.
So they'll get their unique Blade Guard vet versions with the axes and shields, and then they'll get this unit, this Wolf Guard. So maybe it's just a robust Terminator kit with a pile of options. I hope they give them the option to load them all out the same, because a lot of players like to do that. If it's a bunch of single pose, like, nope, you have to take one with this and one with that and one with this.
No, I would expect that the bodies will all be the same, but then they'll have like different arm options for the different weapons. So maybe they can all be melee Terminators.
Right. I suspect it'll come with like 13 heads, right? Like helmeted heads and bare heads, and then it'll be like, so you're either going to take them like melee weapon and Stormbolter, and then one guy has a heavy weapon,
right?
And then your battle leader. So it's probably 3 generic mix and match.
I can see that.
A specialty and then a character.
Or maybe you can equip them all melee. Do the assault Terminators.
That'd be sweet.
So yeah, we'll see.
Give them frost claws or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't even play them, and it's like, man, those models are so that might have been the highlight of the week, was showing off just 3 Space Wolf characters in the Wolf Guards.
Yep.
But that's the kind of stuff we like to see. Show us a pile of new stuff.
Right. Even if it's not coming for a bit, like show us new stuff.
Models. You guys are never not making new models.
Like where's the end of stuff? Show me something. Like, show me anything. It's coming next. Show me the next thing. I should never be. Honestly, I mean, this is maybe spoiled because years previous we had no indication of what was coming. Ever.
Right.
But we're in a different age, right? We're in the age
era.
of the internet.
Internet.
It's
social media.
It's so easy to distribute information and take photos. Everyone's got a camera in their pocket. It's so easy to send information and just. I should never be in a state where the thing has come out and I don't know what's coming next. That's what I feel like.
In fact, all of you who get sneak peeks, do more leaking.
Yeah, right. Jesus.
Show us more fuzzy pocket camera pictures. Come on.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like I should never get to the point where I've caught up with what's coming. Right?
But we've reached that weird point where we're like, well, we know everything.
It's like, well, we knew skeletons were coming. We knew Gloomspite were coming. We got the Gloomspite, then we got the skeletons.
Yep.
It's like, okay, well, what's next? We have no clue.
Nothing.
And so it's like, I don't like being caught up and not being, because the uncertainty of not knowing what's next, in a way, makes me dread that nothing is coming next. You know what I mean? At least the hope that is brought by the fact that something is teased means I know something else is coming. You know what I mean? In a way.
Well, like in a little hobby PTSD here. It brings you back to the Kirby days where like you didn't ever know what was coming until 2 weeks before. And I don't want that. We like this era of like information, media sharing. So like I said, anybody out there who gets those little bit of leaks, you can do a little bit for us and show us a little bit of what's coming if you got anything. Not that we condone leaking stuff. But yeah, we're in a weird, we're caught up to everything. Every app on our phone is updated with the latest. Yeah. Basically.
I mean, besides the 2 more weeks for skeletons to be activated in the thing, Yeah, I don't know. I should hobby more though. I was doing some rearranging down in my actual workshop.
Same.
Because it's springtime. It's time to get everything set back up and clean and all that. And I was just looking at just how much assembled like terrain I have that's not primed.
Oh, sure.
And it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much that it's like I'm gonna have to go stock up on like spray paint because I'm going to go through like half a dozen cans.
Just
priming
rattle cans
yeah.
empty.
But then I was like, well, what do I want to do with it? I was actually getting towards the hobby side of things now, shifting. There was a really cool technique that I was looking at, where when you're making, especially buildings and stuff that have similar aesthetics to them, to each other, doing this massive like shift in color palettes to represent like inside and outside of the building. And it was super cool. I saw this guy did them, and it was like these old like ruined kind of buildings, and on the one side, two of the four sides basically of the building was like a really bright color palette, like it was illuminated by sunlight.
Yep.
And the other side was like dark, gloomy, almost like moonlight or like almost like eldritch greenish
reflective
light on the outside. And so it was like from one side or the other, you see it, and it like you wouldn't necessarily have to be like this is inside, this is outside, but once you align those buildings together to make a solid like a room, it looks like this is all outside and this room is now inside because it's lit differently. And I was like, what an effective way to like create some both variation in your pieces, but also some like diversity in the, because like you can use it for so many things now. You know?
Do you think it's one thing with that when you look at your pile of gray shame, and some people call it gray opportunity? I guess that's the
no, it's shame.
That's the half full, half empty thing.
I've put one together and I've just not touched it. It's shameful.
But one of the things you have to find is like, what's a way that's like, when you're talking about those kinds of projects and not necessarily display or commission or competition pieces, is you start thinking like, well, what's a way I can do it that's enjoyable?
Right.
And so do you think this method or this result is something that's quick and easy enough that you actually get motivated to tackle some of it?
I think a lot of it is easy enough to do with spray paint. So a lot of results quickly, right? Which is, I think, pretty key to getting big projects done that you don't necessarily care as much about. Like if you're doing display models or like you have a unit of models that you really like the look of, you're going to spend more time on that. But then when you extrapolate it out to the rest of the army, you don't want to spend that amount of time or effort necessarily on everything. You know what I mean? Because you're like, I like this unit, the rest of it's meh, or, not as interesting. I don't want to put that level of detail into it. But with this, like all of it's going to be the same level. I don't need it to look amazing, I'm fine with doing airbrushing, doing some dry brush on top, doing washes, really quick, dirty washes on like terrain, just because it's background stuff, I think, with those kind of methods, you can get results so quickly that it makes a big daunting project like that seem like you're getting progress quickly enough that it feels like you're going to get it done.
Well, and I think if the method is right. So, for example, I did something, and I might post a video for people to watch soon on our YouTube channel, and I won't spoil it, but it's a method that, while there's a lot of time involved in terms of waiting, the process itself is super easy.
Right.
And so sometimes that's a way to be incentivized or motivated to do a project in this hobby, is when it's like low effort, and so you're just waiting for literal dry time or whatever. And so that can be a way to be excited to get something done, is when you know that okay, this process is this simple, low effort. I don't have to be super clean at first, but
and you see like immediate results.
Get a really effective result. Yeah.
That's huge, because I think especially new painters, they can get frustrated with not having progress quickly enough.
Yep.
And so they get discouraged with like, well, I want my stuff to look like the box, but it takes so much skill and effort to make it look like the box. Mine doesn't look like that, and you get discouraged. So it's
we've seen that even. As people may know, we have an affiliation with Chimera.
Yep.
And I think for some people in this hobby who predominantly game and don't necessarily do the painting and the terrain and all that other stuff, they can be intimidated when they look at like the box art of some of those miniatures, because you have phenomenal artists putting those together, and they're like, wait, that's what they're doing with this stuff? I can't. So I think to find a way to make it relatable, so that people can see progress. So start with something that's a low effort but effective result. I think that's a good way to get started with a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
You know what else is low effort but has an effective result?
What's that?
Whatever that is that I smell in the kitchen.
Yeah. The thing that's already ready.
The thing that's already ready.
Yeah. All right, let's eat.
Let's eat.
Thanks for joining. We hope you enjoyed. Follow us for more of our weekly episodes on YouTube Podcasts, Spotify, and Podbean. You can follow myself and Llama on Instagram. We are at Llama Paints Minis and Hyena Paints Minis. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. And as always, we'll catch you next time.